couldn't help, as I'm watching the Knicks last night against the Celtics, what the Miami Heat are thinking. Because the Heat are just waiting. They're waiting till the Eastern Conference Finals. And they got to be looking at this going, really? Really? Let's bring in Frank Isola, the New York Daily News NBA writer, covering the Knicks and the Celtics. What did you see last night that surprised you most about the Knicks, Frank?
Inability to make shots, I say, would be one of them. You look at Carmelo Anthony the last two games, Dan, he's taken 59 shots. He's made 18, and then you had J.R. Smith, who, talked a big game after game 4 that if he had played, he would have been golfing already because he would have finished off the series. He came out and missed his first 10 shots. And then also defensively, the Knicks have done a good job holding the Celtics to under 80 points throughout the series. The last two games, they've given up 90-plus. So defensively, the Knicks are letting down, and there's no reason that they should. As you look at the Celtics roster, Dan, we know that they have a lot of heart. They have championship DNA, that team. But talent-wise, they're just not as good as the Knicks, and the Knicks have now put themselves in a pretty bad situation.
This whole black suit thing, their funeral garb for the Celtics funeral, how did that go over? How much of a big deal is this?
I don't think it impacts winning and losing. It might speak to the focus of the players a little bit. And, if you look at a team like the Warriors, a young team, really in their first playoff series together, if they wore all black to their game tonight, you would look at them and say, all right, what a bunch of young knuckleheads. Here we are talking about the Knicks, right now the oldest team in the league. They have a few guys that have won championships, a few guys that have been to finals before. And, it doesn't show much class, number one, and, it doesn't show much taste either, because think about it. Last Friday, the Knicks were in Boston, and before the game, they honored, the victims, the first responders of the Boston Marathon. And here are the Knicks, dressing for a Boston funeral. It just, to me, it doesn't look good. You would think that maybe some of the older players on the Knicks, I'm sure some of the older players on the Knicks maybe cringed, but maybe they didn't want to say anything. But you would think guys like Kidd, Tyson Chandler, even Marcus Camby might have thought this might not be the best idea. And maybe, it's something I don't think the Knicks should have done.
Who's running this team?
Well, certainly it's Mike Woodson and Carmelo Anthony. That's the one thing. You look around the NBA, it's always kind of the star player who's your leader. And I think Jeff Van Gundy always says it. Sometimes they lead you in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. And I would say that, for most of the year, Carmelo Anthony's led them in a good way. But the way that they handled themselves, their decision to wear black to the game was silly. And then they just didn't play well enough. And, the series is far from over. If the Knicks wanted to make history this year, well, guess what? They have a really good chance to make history, and it's going to be the worst kind of history.
Finish this sentence. If the Knicks lose this series.
Carmelo Anthony will have if he thought last summer was long, where he went to the Olympics, he was training with the Olympic team, really didn't take a break and came to camp in his best shape of his life, this will be the longest summer of his life, especially mentally. There'll be a lot of questions about it. Now, Carmelo's the kind of guy, to me, that I don't think he lets this stuff affect him too much. Sometimes that's a positive, sometimes that's a negative. But this will really put Carmelo Anthony under the microscope because we know his record, 2-9 in the playoffs, only been out of the first round once, and now to be part of a team that would be the first NBA team to go up 3-0 in a series and lose the last 4 games. Hey, people in New York still talk about what the Red Sox did to the Yankees, and that's a Yankee team that had won World Series, and since then won a World Series. You're talking about a Knicks team that hasn't won, or a franchise that hasn't won since '73, hasn't won a playoff series in 13 years. So, you think about it, if there's ever going to be a team that's going to finally break through and be down 0-3 and come back, you would think it would be the Celtics because they've basically done everything else in the NBA.
He's Frank Isola, the New York Daily News NBA writer, covering the Knicks and the Celtics. What do you think the Miami Heat are thinking as they're looking at the team that's supposed to challenge them eventually in the Eastern Conference Final?
I think they're probably loving this right now, the fact that it's taking the Knicks. Now it's going to take at least 6 games to get through, and maybe they don't even get through. The one thing about the Heat, I would say this. I think they respect the Knicks from this standpoint. The Knicks did beat them 3 times.
Yep.
One game the Knicks lost at the Garden. The Knicks had a big lead. I think they might have been up 18 in that game. So, against the Heat, for whatever reason, the Knicks are able to make a lot of three-point shots. Now, whether that would translate, assuming that the two teams end up meeting in the conference finals, who knows? But I think the Miami Heat have to be loving it. I would think the Miami Heat, the only thing they're concerned about is I think they want the Chicago Bulls to lose, because I don't think LeBron wants to put up with the Chicago Bulls knocking them around for another few games.
Look, I'm always hard on Carmelo Anthony, and I am on Dwight Howard. It's because these guys want to be paid like great players, stars, superstars. And all I ask is, what do you do when I know I need to count on you? And this is a moment where I'm not going to write off Carmelo because he could light up the night in Game 6.
Yep.
Dwight Howard, I know he came back from back surgery, but you want these guys who get to the certain point in their career where you go, okay, now you should get it. Now you should understand what it means to take that next step. And that's the difference between being a legend or just being a great player. Where is Carmelo Anthony in becoming that great player?
Well, I think you're right about that. And I think if you look at Dwight Howard, he had made it to a finals, and you thought that maybe this was the start of something big. To me, he doesn't take his profession seriously enough. Carmelo, I don't think that's the case. And having been with him in London over the summer, and, it's funny, especially Kobe, he really pokes and tweaks Carmelo a lot about his lack of playoff success. But Kobe, LeBron, they have a lot of respect for Carmelo, and I think Carmelo wants to be considered in that same group with those guys. But Carmelo's smart enough to know it's not about winning a scoring title or making the All-Star game or even winning gold medals. It's really about playoff success, and he knows better than anyone. Carmelo's not dumb. Carmelo knows that he has not had a good playoff record. There's a lot of circumstances, but now there are no excuses because you're not playing a very good Boston Celtics team, in my opinion. The Knicks have more talent. Boston does not have a point guard. They don't have a backup point guard. This is all going to fall on Carmelo Anthony's shoulders. And here's the thing. He had a terrific year, no doubt about it. He's probably going to finish in the top 5 of MVP. But if the Knicks were to lose these next 2 games, everyone's going to remember until the next time Carmelo Anthony wins a playoff series is that he blew this one.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Dan.
Frank Isola, New York Daily News.